in a different universe, I'm in a different cosmic space. So that this coexistence of these two sides of your mind was very fun to experience, because one part of your mind is just like, I know what I'm looking at, and the other was like, I just explore, and both exist, not good or bad, it just exists. It made my eye travel in any way a figurative work would make it, and I realized there's not much, that separation didn't exist anymore. My reaction to it was very calm. It felt so cosmic. Everything what I was looking at felt big, so big that in the best possible way it kind of exposed your smallness in this vast arena. So that was a beautiful experience, very humbling experience. I think that's good. I like that. Shook the foundation of the most stubborn person like me, who's so married to the idea of classical arts. That was an incredibly enlightening experience.
Well, the first walking in there, I did feel like some of those old caves with all that colour, the limestone. That was my first thought, a cave. My thought was, maybe a futuristic spaceship. But then the more you sit there, as we were saying, the more you see the objects. It's great to get out of that and try and see more, experience more than just our 10%. The visual, the sound, it was all an experience of making your brain work, especially initially trying to figure out what it was.
In general, an exhibition is you go, you look at someone else's work, and then you move on and you look at the next thing, and it's somebody else's work. You can look at it and visually appreciate it, and then you move on. Whereas this was completely different. I felt like it was kind of much more about my own interpretation and my own feelings towards it. You said at the beginning, kind of open your imagination, and I thought, I don't know how much my imagination is going to get, because usually in exhibitions it's not really my imagination, it's the artist's imagination, and you just look at it. Whereas this, it definitely felt like it was much more open to my interpretation. And I definitely, my imagination was stretched, I would say that. I've never kind of done like an immersive thing like this.
I definitely felt an emotional release to feel like you were being plummeted very deep into a cave, and that connection with the world at a more animalistic form, almost like prehistoric aspect. And then when I saw there was one detail that shifted my whole perception, and then it felt more cosmos, it felt more like a planet, and I felt like I was observing the world from very, very far away. So to go from that sensation of being very deep to the sensation of being very far away was a mental shift also that possibly helped with my body also changing shape. If I also changed physically as that mental shift occurred. And then it was a whole other experience again, just the colours, the sheer vast quantity of colours was, I just kept saying the word incredible. And when you see that, it is startling, it's very startling. There maybe what more emotionally happened was I left behind the stresses I had coming into the space before, and even in my back, you carry stress in your body, you hunch when you're carrying stress, and that was surprising. That's not something that happens easily to a person. It's not like there's a trigger that turns off stress.
I really enjoy the kind of like blank room that you have to step into right before, and everything seems like it's getting more simplified, and so you walk into that third room and it feels like, oh, maybe this will be the experience, and then you're led into a room where it's just so much, and everything not so much overwhelms you instantly, because then you're just met with color, which hasn't been as present, or so you think, beforehand, and you're forced to kind of sit and imagine what this could be, because it could be quite literally anything, and then you actually get to find out what it is, and you realize that you've quite literally walked in a circle, and everything is just taken in this new direction where it forces you to consider everything you've looked at in a different light. So it really is just like everything, because it can be anything, and it's just everything.
It looked like, it reminded me of learning about space in school very, very young. when it piqued everyone's interest, but very quickly I settled into so much peace. When you put me in the room, I had my hands crossed in front of me, and almost immediately I leaned back, put my hands on the back of the ottoman, and just couldn't stop looking around. While my mind was very relaxed, it also wasn't slow. It felt very unfiltered and very able to see whatever came to mind. The three-dimensionality was incredible. There was one part that it looked like a little loop around, or almost like a river under a bridge. It looked like almost inviting. I was surprised that I wanted to like climb inside. Excited, peaceful, and removed. Very, very removed from how my mind normally works, how many distractions there are in life, how many worries there are. Everything felt very, very distant, almost not present. And in the same way I say removed, it could be substituted with present in the same way.
It brought me so much peace and a sense of presence as well. And it engaged so much of my curiosity. Like, it was such an engaging piece of work to look at in the textures and the depths, because you would see, I personally perceived so many different shapes, but all of them were completely organic. So in a way, it felt so unpolluted to see these, you know, a whale and canyons and a baby and trees and the universe and stardust, you know, to see so many slices of the universe. As well, it made me reflect on the way that the infinity of myself is held within also the unity of myself. And so that kind of juxtaposition between singularity and infinity, it was as if I was being immersed at the crossroads of those two phenomena, and then almost realizing that you can't have infinity without singularity, and singularity cannot exist without infinity. So in a way, they're one and the same. Like, or not even a harmony of the opposites, it was a dissolution of opposite. It was just, there was no opposite. There was no me and the piece. It was just being completely immersed in this beautiful, natural reflection of all of the infinity that the universe has to offer. It exists beyond the kind of ego-centered experience of usually witnessing art. It just feels like becoming a part of nature, and then that in and of itself was the artistic process that the artist was giving me. It felt like a gift because it was such a regenerative experience, even just to be in that space for a few minutes. It was so restoring and so bountiful and abundant, you know? And in that sense as well, it did feel like going back into the earth and not being afraid of, you know, of a dark space like that I'm in now, but instead seeing the bounty and the abundance that the natural world and my natural process and my natural experience can give me, and finding peace in that infinity as opposed to being overwhelmed by.
At first, you're like, whoa, there's a lot to look at. But when you start to calm down and just go around with your eyes, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful, I still felt the life coming out of it. And I saw shapes of legs and a baby in a womb, like Da Vinci would draw, which I thought was really nice. And the colors and how it made me feel throughout all of it, my imagination was everywhere.
To me, being in that space and really becoming one with the different colors and shapes and textures, with your phone aside, with your mind being your only companion, is really an experience that connects you to yourself, to nature, to a different perspective about things in life, and it felt spiritual, and it's not something that I've
felt a lot recently, so it was really, really cool. I think it gave me access to subliminal and subconscious feelings that I had towards myself, the society, the world around me. There's something about the way the texture and the setup of the room is that it just makes you kind of almost meditate or introspect. I'm not fully conscious of what I felt, but I definitely felt things as I went through the different textures and colors. And also just the experience really detaches you from reality. So it's just a very interesting artistic experience. So I love that.